Parasyte the Maxim, episode 11, Bluebird. Now, to start off, this is totally random, but I would like to mention that Shinichi is terrible at not, doing the eye contact thing. Every time it's only happened twice, but every time it's like, don't look around, like, this is exactly who it is. Like, the first time, it was by accident because he didn't really know. But even at the last minute, it was like, it's her. Like, don't look at her. And he looked straight at her and was like, oh, crap. And then that led to a really funny scene where the guy behind him, where his buddy said, like, she looked right at me. But this time, it was just like, he's looking around. It's like, it's 6 people right on this thing. 6 people looking around that can sense where you are. Plus, there was, I think, 2 more down below on the bottom of the bus. And it's like, don't look in their direction because it's those 6 people standing up there. And he's like, up there? And then, of course, eye contact. And it was like, what is he doing? It's like, sometimes it's like he's trying to have people know exactly who he is. Because he was staring straight at the guy, like, him? And then, of course, he was freaked out, I understand, because that was a very weird moment. And I really don't know what to think about these parasites banding together the way that they are. Because this episode was definitely one where, like, in the beginning, they had the one guy who was on a date, and then the girl pulled his hair, and he was just like, I love the way they did it, because they're still trying to blend in, but they aren't fluid still, and he was just like, this is awkward, and I just thought that was really funny, even though I knew it was kind of sad, because I was like, oh, well, that means she's gonna die, but it was just funny the way they did that, and then this random other parasite just happens to be walking around, and it's like, oh, hey, she figured it out. It was the hair pulling thing. And she's like, oh, I prefer not to consume meat with alcohol in it. And then they just digest this woman and get rid of the evidence. And then we have this parasite running for mayor. We've got other parasites. They were testing against the Yakuza in this episode, which is a really awesome part of the episode. And it's like, it's kind of weird because it's the Yakuza. It's not like the Yakuza are nice people. We know what the Yakuza are. But it was still really messed up. Because it's like, in that specific sense, it's like, oh, these parasites are really, really bad creatures. But it's like, it is the Yakuza. They aren't some of the few people in Japan with tattoos for no reason. Like, I'll put it that, like, it's the Yakuza. I mean, they're way cooler than most mafia because they use katanas, which I appreciate. And I even did that in this, which was really awesome. I was like, that's cool to actually see that happen, because I'm not, familiar with the Yakuza too much, because that probably isn't the best thing to be too familiar with. But I know the big thing about the Yakuza is that they do still use katanas, kind of like Ronin in a weird sense, which is just like kind of like Wandering Samurai for anyone who doesn't know what a Ronin is. Like Samurai Champloo, Jin and Mugen are Ronin, not Rogan, Rogue Samurai, so Ronin. But it was really cool to see them go up against this parasite, and it just sucked. It was like he was just destroying these people, and I didn't know that they could move that fast. I think this was the first time, outside of a parasite actually physically changing the body, I feel like this was the first time we've ever seen them move so quickly, because he was dodging bullets. I think he only got shot one time. He got 3 hits total, and I think maybe 2 of them were shots, and then that final one was when the guy stabbed him through the head, which I also don't completely understand, because the guy didn't bleed at all when he was shot, which confused me a little. Honestly, I didn't even think of that until just now, but he didn't bleed whatsoever when he was hit. Like, he was shot possibly twice. I really can't remember, like, that middle one. I know the first time he was hit he was shot. Oh, the second time was, or maybe that was the first time, was when he got hit in the arm. That might have been the first one. So he was shot once, but he didn't bleed at all. It was like he got hit, and it seemed like they shot, like, gel, basically. Like, he got hit, and even his clothing seemed to heal. I can't really remember because he was, like, basically covered in blood by the end of the episode. But it was just really interesting. It was like, okay, he got shot once, he got cut through the arm, and then he got hit, like, straight through the middle of his head, and he had no blood whatsoever. And I thought that was really weird. I don't know if that means that they've evolved because they've, adapted to the bodies so well. I don't know. But I thought that was very interesting that he had no blood whatsoever. He wasn't damaged. Because they talk about, like, all the time, like, oh, if we're hitting a vital organ, it still the human body. And I guess I can understand the head part because that's where the parasites are. So that's basically them 100%. So if he got hit in the head, I could see no blood coming from that because, I mean, they changed the entire head in all sorts of weird shapes and stuff. So the head not bleeding, I can kind of understand that. Although they do still bleed, like even when they're separated, at least when they're first separated, they don't like bleed out or anything. They kind of just instantaneously shrivel up almost. But even when they're first detached, there's still a bit of blood that spurts out. So it was just really weird. Like he got hit in the arm. It was like nothing happened. Like he broke the piece of the katana off, and he did. It was really cool. I did like how he killed that one guy, even though it was messed up. But when it was stuck in his arm, and he like basically warped the muscles to like one center, and he just popped it off into the guy's head. I was like, that was pretty cool. It was really messed up, but I was like, is he about to like shoot it back? And that's exactly what happened. It was pretty sweet, but it was weird that he had no blood. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if that means it's an evolution or what, but I feel like that has to be the answer because we've seen them get shot before. Have we? I believe we've seen them get shot. I guess, I don't know. I guess when they did it in the last episode, he didn't exactly bleed either, and he was definitely shot several times. So I don't know. I guess I didn't really consider that in the last episode because he was kind of going on a crazy rampage. That was like the big deal of the episode, but I don't know. It was just really weird. Like I said, I didn't even think about that until just now doing this review, but it was kind of weird that there was no blood, and every other time we've seen it happen, like when they're fighting, there's blood. They did it with the dog. Well, they ripped the dog's heart out. So, not exactly the same thing as, like, you know, cutting the dog a little bit or something. But I do believe they bleed. Because it's, like I said, it's still the human bodies. But, I don't know. I mean, they also did have it where Shimada got hit in the head, if I'm remembering his name right. He did get hit, when he got hit in the head with the baseball, his head did just kind of indent and then pop right back out. But like I said, that's where the parasites are, and that's what changes. So I don't know, very different, I guess. I don't know, but that was a really crazy scene. Like he goes up to the first guy. That was really funny though. Even the other parasite asked him, like, you know, don't you want to like wear something different, like wear like dress normal? He's like, let's just get bloody anyway. And when he goes up to that first guy, he's like, okay, short shorts. Like I know, like, you know, the Yakuza and stuff. That was pretty funny. And then slams that guy's head in and just wipes out all of those people. And now they have their official tests, which apparently they've done before, or maybe that was just their calculations, because he was like, oh, 3 hits seems about right. So I don't know if they've done tests before, like I said, it's just calculations, but he got 3 hits against the Yakuza, so, you know, that does kind of say quite a bit. And even, you know, when we saw the cops, like I said in the last episode, that didn't do anything either. Like, they were shooting the crap out of him, and seemingly nothing. Like, I'm sure they were aiming for all sorts of important parts on the body, and he was just, like, chopping people up. So I don't know, maybe it just has to be 100% precise. Like, you just completely destroy the heart or completely decapitate them, which, you know, we found out they can transfer, even though that doesn't really work. But I don't know, it was very interesting. And then, of course, we have Shinichi dealing with, what is her name? I forgot the girl's name. But, you know, he's kind of being more human in this episode, and so he's dealing with her, and she's trying to figure things out. She has the craziest dream ever, which I thought was really, really funny. And, you know, it's like he's super buff and stuff, and he's saving her from all these monsters, which I thought was very interesting that she actually did have that specific dream where it was actually him with his arm and everything. So I thought that was really interesting, actually, because it says a lot. It's not just like, oh, she can sense certain things and stuff like that, which was obviously the case beforehand. But I don't know, it was just very specific because of obviously his arm and Miki being inside of his arm. It was very specific to what he can and can't do as far as his transformations. So I kind of like that idea, but it was obviously a really weird dream. He comes in as the knight on the white horse, but even the horse is all messed up and like a parasite. So I thought that was really weird. But it was pretty cool. It was interesting seeing that happen, and she wakes up and she has like the messed up hair and she's kind of freaked out a little. And now she has like a huge crush on Shinichi, seemingly, and that seemed to always be the case. Like once she figured out anyway that she could kind of sense him, that was pretty much automatic. But he finally kind of moves on. I'm totally forgetting the other Satomi as well, and they actually kiss and stuff, and they go out and have a good time. But even at the end, which I thought was actually really great, even after they kissed, and he's walking away, he's feeling better. He's definitely feeling more human and stuff. She was really worried. She was still freaked out. Like, maybe if we'd gotten closer, I know 100% that you're the same Shinichi, but, she's crying because she still doesn't feel like it's really him. And I thought that was actually very awesome. I was like, that's pretty cool that they finally have this moment where they get past a lot of the crazy issues that they've recently had, and they just have a normal good day. They have their weird issues from time to time, of course, like when they're in the first restaurant and things are seemingly going fine, and she's like, you know, the island with your dad, and he's just like, all right, let's get the heck out of here, which I don't know if that was actually because of what she said. I initially thought it was just because he sensed a parasite and was like, all right, let's leave before something crazy has to happen. But it may have actually just been the fact that she asked about the island in general and obviously all the craziness that went on there. But there's that, and then of course when they're at the bench and there's the mother and the son. I was honestly not 100% convinced that that wasn't a parasite when it was the mom, and because she was so nonchalant. But it's like, that's just a drain mother. It's like, that's really sad real life stuff right there. But it was kind of funny. I'm like, is she a parasite or is she just like devastated as a human right now? And she was just a devastated human mother, and it was just kind of funny. I was like, that's actually really sad, but it was just funny thinking of it that way. Like, that's just real life, which sucks. But they had that moment where he was really freaking out because he was, thinking back on what he did or what he had to do going up against his mother's body. Like, I don't really want to say it was his mother, but his mother's body. And fortunately, he was able to calm down from that, because I thought for sure he was going to, like, have an actual heart attack or something, kind of like he almost did before. And it seemed like that's pretty much what happened. Like, he was basically having a heart attack. But it was interesting. He mentioned, like, oh, there's a hole. And then it was like he realized what he was saying. And I guess he hasn't really mentioned to anyone that his mother is actually dead. But, and this was kind of like the first time I even realized that, because he hasn't talked about it, of course. So it didn't really dawn on me that he hasn't really said anything to anyone like, oh, his mother is actually dead. Because I don't think anyone knew that. It was just he had to leave because his dad was in the hospital. I think that's all everyone knows. And they might know about his mother, but I don't really think he's officially said anything, so I don't know if he's lied to people or what. But I thought it was kind of interesting the way they kind of played that part out. But it was really good. I thought it was very nice that they went through all this stuff and seemingly everything was fine, and it gets to the end and she's still just like, I don't really know this guy like I thought I did, but it's still not really him. Even with the good day that they had, she's still really conflicted on the inside. And I actually like that idea that it's not just poof, it's perfect. Like, oh, they had a good time, so it's, back to normal. She's still really conflicted, and she really feels like he's not the same person. Personally, I think that's just a lot cooler because it creates more conflict in the future. And then they have their conversation at the end where they kind of talk about what happened, in the last episode. And I don't know if that's going to go too far, because it was super vague. It was like, oh, he saved my life. It wasn't like, oh, we, dropped out of a building like 3 stories or 4 stories, and then he jumped over a fence or something. It was just like, yeah, he saved my life. And then that was pretty much it. It was super, super vague. So I don't really know where it's going to go from here with these 3 characters in this relationship. And we still don't have really any information from, and I'm totally blanking on everyone's name, but the other girl that was attacked by Shimada in the last episode. I thought for sure, or Hideo is his name. I don't know who Shimada is. Who the heck is that? That's somebody else. I don't know. But I thought for sure she would have a big role in this next episode, where somehow the information would get relayed. Like, hey, this really crazy thing happened. And I thought that she would be talking with Satomi, and that's how that would happen. And it still could in the next episode, but I thought for sure that would be this one, where they would talk, and then that kind of weird information would get put out there, and then Satomi would kind of put two and two together, which she still could, because there's like three people now around Shinichi and Miki that have little bits of information of the same story, and if they just all talk and kind of get into a bit of detail about what they know, they'd be able to figure out kind of what's going on with Shinichi. They wouldn't know, of course, 100%. They wouldn't have facts on it, but they'd certainly be a lot closer than they all are now. All are now, with like their separate bits of information. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But I think this was definitely a good episode. I'm really looking forward to whatever is going on with all these parasites kind of banding together and deciding to run for mayor. I guess they're really trying to implement themselves into society now. And they seem to be enough to where, like the guy that killed the woman in the beginning, there seemed to be more than enough parasites to where there was just a random female parasite walking around and it's like, oh, something weird happened. And it was just by coincidence. Like, that kind of says a lot that there's that many, and she just happened to be walking around at night. So that's kind of scary, and that kind of has me a little bit excited too, but also fairly scared, because we've seen that as well with Ryoko and whoever she was meeting with. So they've got some stuff going on, which that may have been the guy who's running for mayor now. But I'm looking forward to this next episode. But of course, want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know what you guys think about the Parasyte running for mayor. Because to me, like I said, that's just really scary. But it's exciting for what it's going to do for the show. But like, just concept-wise, that's really scary. It's like, they're still killing off people. At least when they get busted. And clearly, I mean, they did the whole Yakuza thing. That was just a straight-up test. And they just killed a bunch of people. And they seemingly kill, they kill like the bad guys, because they kill people from the Japanese mafia, basically. So it's like they kind of, they did. It was also just smart, because it's like that could have been anyone that did that. So it's just a lot of different layers. There's like, there could have been by choice because they didn't want to kill innocent people, but I highly doubt that. They just did it to kill strong people and not the cops, because that way it wouldn't bring too much attention. So a lot of possibilities, all crazy as far as I'm concerned, but I definitely want to know what you guys think. So like I said, please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.